We have Ryan Lodi here. Ryan wrote 2 million AP in 2 years, which is insane. On his own pen, not talking about team, not talking about anything like that. Ryan outproduced most teams by himself. And it wasn't luck. If you know who he is, he's an extremely hardworking, dedicated, committed person. Ryan, how old are you?
24 years young.
Boom, 24. Okay. Ryan wrote more in 2 years than most guys will write in their entire life. So, Ryan, to start off here, introduce yourself. Let the audience know who you are, where you're from, and what are you all about, brother?
Absolutely, Justin. Well, appreciate you having me on. 24 years young, like I said. Currently living here in Miami, Florida. My hometown of Cleveland, Ohio is where I came from. And now just here in Miami, Florida, really looking to just blow up my life and, help other people do the same.
Awesome. Cool, man. Down here in South Florida with me. Just crushing it. Real quick, my audio's okay, right? Sounds good?
Yep. Perfect.
All right, sweet, sweet. Not too loud or anything?
No?
All right, cool, cool. Sweet. So, what did the start of your career look like before it really took off? Like before you totally, I mean, did you just start and then crush it like that, or was there like a ramp up to where you're like, okay, that's the road. I'm gonna run down that road.
Absolutely. Great question. So, for me particularly, it was not an easy start. First initially, I got my license. I was in Cleveland, Ohio, my hometown, and I made a decision to move to Charlotte, North Carolina, not knowing anyone there, not knowing I didn't have any sales, knowledge or information. I didn't have communication skills and really didn't even know anything about insurance. I didn't have a presentation. I didn't really study anything about insurance and moved straight to Charlotte, North Carolina, got massively uncomfortable. And I'd say within the first 4 to 6 months, I did not even make a sale. I,
Wow.
I moved, yeah, I moved from Cleveland to Charlotte, North Carolina with only enough money for rent and maybe groceries. I didn't account like leads, gas, all those other miscellaneous expenses as well. So it was really tight. It was a very, very tough time for my life, and especially with not making a sale within 4 to 6 months. But what really changed was the fact that I was outside of my comfort zone and I really dove deep into insurance sales training. So I particularly trained and looked at one person on YouTube. That was David Duford. I really went deep into his content and his material, and I was literally spending like days on days on days, weeks on weeks of just like insurance training. And I went really, really deep. And I probably did, over 30, 45 full pages of training,
Wow.
and that's what
Like
really
notes.
got me, yeah, notes. And I was sticking stuff all up on the walls in my apartment and literally like presentation, closing, material. And that's where everything really jump started. But within the first 4 to 6 months, man, it was tough. It was tough. Not having anyone around me. I was a lone ranger, as a lot of people who are watching this can relate to that as well. Was just by myself, and it was really tough. But I had a like a staple in my mind. I'm like, man, I am going to make this work. There is no plan B, no plan C. Like, this is the only option. I started this. I'm going to see the cycle of action through to full completion. I'm going to get the results and the outcomes that I want. And I really just planted that in my mind and planted that in the universe. And once I really started to go all in and be 100% with it, that's when I started to see results and started to see outcomes. So I started to see results slowly but surely. I was working like 10 leads a week. I was driving like 2 hours out into the boons, into like Wilkes County from Charlotte, North Carolina, hour and a half, 2 hours out, working 10 leads a week. And
Direct mail.
yeah, direct mail. Finally started to get results. And I'm like, man, I cannot work 10 leads a week. Like, I was thinking so small from the beginning. and, started to just really realize like, man, I could do so much more. And then I started to make changes and started to pivot and adapt to, the results that I was getting. So that's how it all started though, man. It wasn't, sweet and easy. It definitely could be easier if you have a good mentor and if you go 100% all in and you do obviously whatever it takes to really become all knowing within insurance.
Love that, bro. And I have a saying. I think other people may have coined say it differently, but I say note takers are rainmakers, because I know when someone's in training, and if they're taking notes and they're in training, I'm like, this person is gonna win. And as a leader, there's nothing bigger of a turnoff than you like sharing your knowledge and someone like clearly not paying attention. Look at Ryan right here. He's taking notes, guys. Right? He's not. I'm taking notes too. He's not even doing the interview, and he's taking notes. Right? So it's like, that's huge. In the commitment to be the best. I'm sure you were always like that. You always wanted like whatever, even if you were like, washing dishes somewhere, you're like, I'm going to be the best dishwasher ever. So cool. If you could go back to the start, and this is for new agents here, guys, what we're going to get into is how Ryan crushed it and is crushing it. And what he was able to do is go and work after generating a ton of business, go back and work his power base for referrals, upsells, stuff like that. So if you could go back to right when you started, what would you have done differently? Because I had similar start. Like first 4 to 6 months was like, I had no clue what I was doing. So what would you do differently if you could go back?
Yeah, a few key things. Number one, definitely getting a mentor immediately. Having a mentor that you can learn from,
Awesome.
having a mentor that you can connect with, talk to, and someone that's going to guide you throughout the starting point is number one, definitely having a mentor. Number two is just thinking a lot bigger from the get-go. Obviously, we always talk about thinking big. We always talk about taking risk and being dangerous. And, many people talk about it, but they don't put the action behind it, and they're not willing to do it. So, thinking a lot bigger, you cannot start off with 10 leads a week. Like, man,
Yeah, it's crazy.
even 20 leads a week is tough, but man, like, you got to have enough income like stored away, or you just got to be willing to put it all on the line and not even worry about it, and just having a lot of faith and belief that what you are doing is going to work out, and just really just, man, 20 leads, 30 leads, 40 leads a week. Like, just go all in, because that brute force commitment and you being 100% all in is another one, obviously, but you being 100% all in and getting a little bit uncomfortable is where the growth is going to come. That's
Yeah.
where, you're really going to see the results. And
Even if they were just,
definitely, doing that is going to be a big determining factor as well, being 100% all in.
yep.
And most importantly, taking the risk early on, being dangerous early on, and not really worrying about where that commitment is going to lead you, because a lot of
Yeah.
people, they always want to see like, man, am I going to get a result from this? Am I going to get an outcome from this? Like, don't even worry about it. Just commit to it. Be 100% all in. I'm a big believer of like, man, I'd rather go all in and be disappointed than
Yeah.
go 50% and be disappointed. I'd rather put it all on the line and maybe not get the result
If
or
you
the
only go
outcome.
50%, you're going to be disappointed no matter what.
Yeah,
That just is what it is. So go 100,
exactly.
100%. Good stuff.
Exactly. So those are the key things. I mean, I'd say, really having a mentor that you can study and train off of, being 100% all in, going all in, thinking bigger, number three. And then also, man, I'd say definitely just number four, just training as much as you can. Diving into sales training, do it every single day. If it's worth doing, as GC says, if it's worth doing once, it's worth doing every day. If it's not
Exactly.
worth doing every day, it's not worth doing at all. And sales
100%.
training is something that you need to do every single day. It's something that I do every single day as well. I'm always training. I'm always looking to gain knowledge and information. And that's what's really gotten me to where I'm at in my life, is like training not just sales training, obviously, but also training on these highly successful individuals, how they think, how they operate, how they take action, and just duplicating it in my life as well. So those are the
Love that.
big things, you know.
Sweet, bro. That's awesome. So now I know Cardone is a big mentor for you, and what I want everybody to understand here too is that your mentor doesn't have to be someone that you can talk to all the time. That's going to like personally talk to you in a one-to-one convo. Okay, because I think sometimes people get that confused because Cardone's a big mentor for me. There are other people who are mentors for me who are dead, right? And I read their books, and I'm never going to get to talk to them in this lifetime anyway, right? So I like if you guys are looking for a mentor out there, it doesn't have to be someone to hold your hand, right? It can be someone who's like has no idea that you're even alive, okay? And you can learn and take advice from that person. And what I recommend to do too, and what I've seen, and he can probably attest to this too, don't pick like 10 mentors. Pick like one or two people and go all in with them. Like he went with Duford and Cardone, right? It was like, I'm going to go all in with these guys. Because people are going to have different things that work for them. And there's no like one system that works, but just pick one and work it and get good at it. Because if not, you're going to get confused. So
100%. To go off of that, yeah, find a mentor in your industry. Find a industry specific mentor that you can train off of, and find a general like sales or just massively successful mentor. And like you said, it was early on, it was Duford for me. And, I attach a lot of my success early on in my insurance sales career to him. And then obviously GC Grant Cardone is like my overall mentor. And I've been studying Grant, and it's crazy to say, but Grant and Grant only for the past 5 years since I've been, an entrepreneur, since I started my sales career and an insurance career. Is just like GC, and that's it. Like literally I went a year without listening to music. All I was listening to was Grant Cardone, and I attach a lot of my success to that as well. So it's been a crazy journey.
love that, bro. So guys, if you want the results Ryan has, you got to put in the work Ryan's done, and you got to put in that effort and that commitment. So what did your system look like when you were like, okay, I'm taking off? Now I want you to put it all on the line here. I want you to break down how many leads were you getting? Were you door knocking, setting appointments? If so, how did you set appointments? What did your routine look like? How was the schedule? So let's start breaking it down for people here so they can understand really how did you produce that much? Because some people are going to literally, this is what's going to happen. Some people are going to see the thumbnail and title and be like, that's BS. I'm going to watch it just so I can pick it apart. So let's prove to him here exactly how you did it.
Yeah, so we're going to go into a specific time where the world was going crazy. Everyone was losing their minds, and a lot of people didn't know what to do. They were retreating, they were pulling back, and they got themselves into a shell. And that was during the pandemic, right when it started, 2020. I wrote between January and about July, maybe June-ish time, I wrote 700,000 of life premium. And specifically, I was using 2 different lead vendors. They were both direct mail. I was spending, it was between like 32 to 35 per piece of mail. And I was getting between, 100 to 150 leads every single week, which, something I wouldn't recommend. However, I just wanted to push myself. I wanted to see how much I could achieve. And keep in mind, this was during the pandemic. I was still going face to face. I was still seeing people every single day. And
were they scared?
No, everyone was receptive. Cool. There were some people that were like giving me, virus, COVID-19 type of objection. But those are the people that would give objections and, reactionary defense responses, as we like to call them. They would give those things anyways. Yeah. They would say, oh, I don't have time. Oh, call me back. Like, those are the people who would give objections and stalls and RDRs in the first place. So, there was a slight few of people, but I was able, I came up with a good little rebuttal to actually still get in the door when they used to say that. But man, I was working, 100 to 150 leads a week, which, like I said, absolutely insane. Being able to keep, I was really just closing. My main goal and objective was to close 20 to 25% of those leads every single week. And then each week, so basically what I did each week, I have a route on my phone, like it's called Road Warrior, is what I was using. Very, very useful, especially if you're in the field. You put all your routes in there. So each week I have an appointment setter, right? I have an appointment setter that I was using. I was paying $18 per appointment that she set. She's absolutely phenomenal. I was using her from 2018 till about 2021. And I would get my schedule every single day, and I would just, run in the field from sun up to sundown, literally like 9 a.m. to, if I could, 9 p.m. Obviously if it gets darker, but if I don't have appointments after it gets dark, then I can't really do much. But literally running appointments, 10 to 12 appointments every single day. And when I had time in between, I was running the week before. So say I'm on, this week, and I had 100 to 150 leads from last week. The leads that she didn't set appointments for, the leads that, hey, say if you're setting your own appointments, say if the leads that you're setting your appointments for, you didn't get to them, I put them in a separate Road Warrior, map, and have those as door knocking leads. So I was literally using all my time. I didn't go to lunch, never went to lunch. I was using all my time to just door knock and run appointments. Literally like my life depended on it, because your success does depend on it. So running 100 to 150 leads a week, using an appointment setter, which helped me multiply my time and use my time as successfully and efficiently as I could. My schedule, if I can come to think about it, I was waking up at 4 a.m. every single day. I was going to sleep, I'd say between 9 and 10. So getting about 6 hours of sleep. Right when I woke up, I went straight to the gym, get my blood flowing, get my mind right. Allows me to control the day, because when I can control my body and I can control what I'm doing, it allows me to control the day from the get-go. Went to the gym immediately, wrote down my goals and targets. Very, very big on that. Writing down your goals and targets every single day. Putting it on a piece of paper. Not just on your phone. That's great.
Or like the sticky note that's been on the wall for like 6 months. I hate seeing that.
Yeah, it's better than doing nothing, if you want to write them down, type them down on your phone every single day. But man, pen to paper every single day. Because what you think about is what you're going to get. What you put attention on is what you're going to get as well. So just seeing your goals and targets every single day. And if you're not thinking about your goals and targets, you're not going to have very high chances of actually achieving them. So writing down my goals and targets every single day, doing my sales training, Cardone University, 15 to 20 minutes every single day. And then I read for 30 minutes after that every single day. And literally that was my morning time. And then first appointment, boom, 9 a.m. I'm straight to the field right away, immediately. So got to leave the place, depending on how far away it was, usually 30 minutes max. Leaving the place around like 8:25, 8:30 to get to my 9 a.m. appointment. And then running appointments hour by hour. So that's how, I kind of ran my schedule, as each hour I had appointments. Now say if someone no-shows, say if someone, I close a deal, within 20 minutes, 30 minutes, boom, I'm heading to a door knock. I'm looking at a route that I have on the Road Warrior app that I was using, and I'm using that extra time that I have to go door knock. Hey, maybe if I door knock a person that's in the area and I get in the house, maybe I'm going to be a little bit late to my next appointment. But I know that I'm using my time as efficiently as I can. And hey, clients are always going to be there more than likely, even if you're 10, 15 minutes late. It's just like, hey, might as well use that extra time to go see another person, to go serve another person. So was running hour by hour. Anytime that, a client didn't show up, no show, close a deal early. Maybe they were, what I like to call a suspect, and they weren't really a prospect. They weren't a buyer. I'm going straight to a door knock immediately. Like, I'm like, okay, great. Like, let's go hit a door knock. Let's use my time as efficiently as I can. Let's see if I can get more results out of last week's leads. Because currently the schedule that I'm running more than likely is going to be off the current week's leads that I'm using. Whereas when I'm door knocking leads, it's from like a week old leads or 2 weeks old leads, and trying to squeeze more out of each order that I was getting. And specifically myself, I had a whiteboard. So say at the end of the day, I had a whiteboard in my house, and I was literally writing down how many closes I got and how much AP I got. And it was like a calendar whiteboard for me personally.
I remember seeing that.
The squares and the calendar, like whatever it is, 30 days in a month. And I had my goal at the end of that week, and I was seeing it every single day. So like, say if one day I don't close my goal that I want, and I don't get the amount of AP that I want, I see it. And I'm like, man, I got to do more work. I got to put forth more effort. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I'm a really big believer in keeping and tracking numbers and tracking your statistics and your metrics, because the numbers are never going to lie. And when you track your numbers and your statistics and your metrics, you're going to have more predictability. You're not going to be in randomness. You're going to know, like, man, I got to make this amount of presentations, this amount of contacts to make this amount of closes, or I got to make this amount of calls, have this amount of contacts, make this amount of presentations to close the deal. When you know your numbers, you are going to be more inspired and more motivated and more invigorated to keep pushing forward when you hit rejection, when you hit a no, when you come across a roadblock or, a tough time, right? Maybe, there were days and there was maybe even weeks that I didn't get, sales. There was a day and that's very, very uncommon, especially for someone that's running 10 to 12 appointments a day or taking massive action for 10 to 12 hours and all they're doing is prospecting. It's very uncommon to not get a sale in a day. But say if there was a day that I didn't get a sale, which there was, I look at my numbers and I'm like, man, like, I just got to keep pushing forward. And the numbers always backed up my action, because I know that, hey, maybe I'm one sit away from a massive deal or one sit away from just servicing a family. And that's what really guided me as I was writing a lot of business, as I was, producing a lot. What really guided me is the fact that, like, I'm helping people.
Yeah.
And when I help someone, it's like, man, it just made me feel so good.
It does.
It made me feel great because I was helping someone and I was servicing someone. And I knew that me being ethical and me having the right heart and the right intentions, that I was putting the client in the right place and doing the right things. Whereas, like, hey, and what I also thought about is, man, if I don't take as much action as I should be taking, there could be another agent out there that gets to this client quicker than I do, and they disservice them. They don't do the right thing. They don't have the client's best interest before their interest. They put them in the wrong product. Maybe they don't do the right thing for the client, and the client is now totally turned off from seeing or talking to any insurance agent. And now that doesn't give me the opportunity to talk to a client and actually service them. So you also got to have that in the back of your mind, like, man, this is my ethical obligation and duty to see the people and literally spend every single second I have every single day to prospect and see the people. Because, man, if it's not me getting to them, who knows who is going to get to that client or that prospect or that direct mail lead or that Facebook lead or that telemarketed lead. Like, who knows who's going to talk to them? And maybe you come come around after someone talks to them and they're like, nope, I don't want to talk to anyone. I had this person come over, they lied to me, they manipulated
Yeah.
me. I don't want to talk to anyone. Whereas like, man, like if you stuck in it long enough, if you took more action, you would have been able to get to that client quicker. You would have been able to service them and you would have been able to help them quicker. So I always had that in the back of my mind as I'm taking action. Like, man, I need to take massive amounts of action because there could be someone else out there, an agent, that could get to a client quicker and it could totally turn them off. They could put them in the wrong product, and that obviously decreases my chances of being able to service and help them. But, back to where we were at, was running, sun up to sundown, 100 to 150 leads a week, using an appointment setter, paying her $18 per appointment she set. So I'm spending literally like 3-4 grand. I mean, if we really do the numbers, 150 leads a week times 35, that's already like 4,500 to 5 grand a week just on leads. Plus my appointment setter, and I was running Monday to Saturday, right? So Monday to Saturday, that's 10 appointments, that's 60 appointments a week times 18, that's another $1,000. Wow. So going back to what I was saying earlier, like, man, you got to be willing to take the risk. Yeah. You got to be thinking big, and you got to have a lot of purpose and reasons as to why you're doing what you're doing. But really just kept it plain and simple. Monday through Saturday was running business. I was always prospecting from sun up to sundown, running leads, doing business. On Sunday, I was doing all the miscellaneous activities and miscellaneous tasks. I was putting people into a Google spreadsheet to see, all my clients that I sold. I was, reorganizing. I was, getting everything in line. But anything between Monday and Saturday, prospecting, seeing the people, bottom line. So just kept it really simple. And I think simplicity is the key to everything.
Cool. Awesome, man. Love that. That's huge. So from door knocking in between appointments, door knocking older leads in between appointments, what percent do you think that increased your production annually? Can you think of something, or what type of a boost would that have given you? Like 20%, 30%?
Well, I probably closed like at least another 5 to 10% of each of my batch of leads. So think of it that way. Instead of just closing 20% of your leads, you're closing 25% or 30%.
So that's another so it's another like 5 to 15 deals a week, almost, depending on your lead order.
Absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. And maybe you're doing face-to-face, like as we're speaking about, maybe you're doing telesales. Like for telesales, hey, like you should be creating a systematic way to follow up with your clients, creatively follow up with your clients, whether it's month by month, whether it's every 2 weeks. For your unsold clients, you should be keeping a list of all your unsold clients, clients that you talked to and didn't sell, maybe you couldn't get a hold of. Like, you need that list of people, and you need to be constantly working that list and following up with them creatively. Because what I've seen, from working my power base and reactivating my power base of
power bases and existing clients, you guys.
Existing clients, yep. Existing clients. What I've seen is that, like, man, at some point in time, they're going to get insurance, whether it's with you or whether it's with someone else. Just because you spoke with them doesn't mean they're going to reach back out to you. And we already know the odds of that. If you're not in constant communication with them, building a relationship with them, and constantly looking for creative ways to stay in touch with them, they're going to buy insurance from someone else. So it's just a matter of time that they're actually going to, purchase insurance and get insurance. It's only a matter of time. So you got to find creative ways to stay in contact and in touch with them. And, something that I could have done a whole lot better. Obviously for me, like, I was working, 100 to 150 leads a week. So I was a little spoiled, I would say, a little bit spoiled of like a lot of opportunity. And I was working a market that a lot of people weren't working. So I was a little spoiled, but now it's a lot more competitive, especially on the FE side. It's very
Yeah.
competitive with telesales, with running in the field. So you got to find ways to differentiate yourself, most importantly, and also ways to dominate your competition, doing what your competition doesn't do, doing what they don't even think about doing, and going to levels that they aren't willing to go to. And I think one of the biggest things is the follow up. You know, we always hear the money is in the follow up,
Yep.
right? What are many people doing about follow up? They follow up with the client one or two times, and then after that, like if they don't get the sale, they're moving on. Whereas, like, man, if you just stick with this client, find creative ways to continue to follow up with them, whether it's once every month, once every 2 weeks, like, man, that sale is going to come to you.
Yeah.
And you know that's a big thing that I've been seeing as I've been reactivating my existing book of business.
How many
Like a
do you
lot
think
of
you
people
have? Sorry.
um man, I've got like 1,200 that are in Cleveland, like final
Wow.
expense clients. Yeah.
Insane.
So yeah, over that time, over that period of time, it's just keeps growing and growing. But as I've been reactivating that existing book of business, you know, a lot of people that fell off the books, a lot of people that got disconnected numbers that I couldn't stay in touch with over time. I've
Yeah.
been seeing like, man, like the people that I had the hardest time trying to close, or the people that wanted to spend like 30, 40 bucks, now they're spending like $100 a month.
That's
Now
awesome.
they've actually closed. And I'm like, dang, like if I just stayed in touch with them, stayed in
Yeah.
contact with them long enough, they would have done business with me, right? So just having more of a long-term approach to everything, especially with the follow-up, is going to dramatically increase your sales and your profits.
Love that, man. That's huge. And I think there's because I've heard people with working face to face, and their approach to follow up from an appointment that doesn't buy is like they don't they're not going to touch them again. So because it's like I was in the home, I did everything I needed to, and I'm not really worried about it because I got my next appointment. Now some people treat it like that, some don't. And I treated it like that when I was face to face, but telesales is way different for me personally because it's like, yo, when you go to someone's house for an appointment, they know you're coming. Like they know you're going to sell them insurance. Unless the lead was just completely a lie on whatever the lead form they filled out, or they have no clue, or they got something wrong with them. But mostly direct mail leads aren't going to have like dementia and Alzheimer's the same as like a telemarketing lead. That's just answering the phone. So like I found like in telesales, especially guys, if with following up with unsold clients is huge because like you're surprising those people randomly in the middle of the day. And I think a lot of new agents run into that trap where they don't understand like if they're just getting into telesales, they don't understand the importance of following up with your unsold clients. And those people, and especially in telesales guys that you have to follow up with and that are like rough on the phone and pains in the butts. Look, those people, when I look back, those are the people that are still on the books paying me renewals. Like I can see the names and I'm like, man, that guy was a jerk to me. But like he's still got his policy 4 years later, right? So that follow up is huge on that. So 1,200 people on the books. Now, what do you do to work your existing clients? So, guys, this is after you put in that massive level of action. Okay, but what Ryan's saying here actually is keep in touch with them like the whole time. So, what would you recommend to do for people to do to keep in touch with their existing client base so that they can take advantage of those upsells and the other opportunities that arise?
Yeah, definitely. So for me personally, I learned by fault that you know I didn't react. I didn't really, you know, I'm saying all this because I didn't personally do it myself, and I'm learning now how much of an impact it makes to stay in contact and stay in
Yeah,
100% communication. Because you know when you're getting 100 to 150 leads a week, like the only thing you can do is literally just prospect and work leads.
that's all you can do.
Whereas, like, man, like if I knew what I knew now, and this is why it's so important to continually dive into information and have a mentor and have, you know, people that you're looking up to and can gain information from. If I knew what I knew now, like, man, I would be in so much more communication throughout the first couple years. So, man, I was working from 2018 till about 2021, in FE, face to face. And between that point of time, all I was doing was selling.
Well, really quick, how would you keep in touch with them? So say like someone's like if you could go back to and what method would you use to keep in touch with them, or maybe have kept in touch with them earlier, like because not many people watching this are going to go put an order for 100, 150 direct mail leads or Facebook leads or YouTube leads, whatever they're working. Most people won't do it. I'd say 90% of people. So what can you what would you recommend to people? Say, hey, how can they keep in touch with those people creatively, like you were saying? Like, what would you recommend to do?
Yeah. So for me personally, I was doing birthday calls, and a lot of people shy away from doing this. They're like, "Oh, just send out like an automated text or automated voicemail drop." Like I was personally, that's one of the things that I've done, throughout the years is birthday calls. I personally call my clients, and they show up on my calendar on my phone because I put all my clients as a contact in my phone, and I put their birthday, and it shows up every single year. And man, I can't even tell you how many times I got a second sale or how many times I got a referral or how many times I run across a client that I've been trying to sell or I've been trying to get back on the books and they're like, "Hey, I'm ready to go." So birthday calls for sure. And then also, man, I would recommend doing monthly newsletters. Send out a monthly newsletter, and that's game changing. Game
Like
changing.
email or direct mail?
Direct mail. Send
That's
out
awesome.
a monthly newsletter.
How do you do
Um,
that?
how do you do that?
Is there a
I mean,
company you use or something?
no. So specifically, I would just create like a trifold type of like, brochure and just put like creative information in there, like tips to live healthier, recent like maybe some history in the month of October for the city that they're living in. Just cool little tidbits, right?
That's awesome.
So send that out. Obviously utilize the CRM and just, I mean, it takes a lot of commitment to find creative ways to follow up with your clients on a monthly or maybe, quarterly basis. So you're going to have to go deep into it and, use the CRM, do voicemail drops, text messages, birthday calls for sure, monthly newsletters. And I mean, I'd say that that's the biggest thing as far as staying in contact with them and continually following up with them. Because, like you said earlier, is if you're not doing that, you're not going to get second sales. You're not going to
Yeah.
get referrals. When they come to buy again, because the buyer's never done buying, they're always going to want more. When they come to buy again, they're just going to buy from someone else. And I've seen that personally myself. Like my own existing client bought from someone else. I'm like, man, like why didn't you reach out to me?
Yeah.
you know and that's the first viewpoint that we have, but we got to take responsibility for them not
Yeah.
buying from us.
It's like, why
So,
didn't you reach out to them? That's what you get. That's how you guys have to look at that. So I'd be like, dang, why didn't they
exactly.
call me? It's like, why didn't you call them? Right? Someone else called them. Someone else was more motivated than you were. And guys, don't think that like when someone buys a policy, that's all they're ever going to buy. Because we literally at our agency, we have our biggest weeks when we only work our existing clients. And I tell agents this all the time. They're like, oh, I don't believe it. Literally, we have people write 30 to 40,000 AP in a week just working their existing clients. We do go through them once every 6 months. So how do you approach an existing client? Right. So walk me through that. So you reach out to someone, call them for their birthday, and then they get in touch with you, or the other methods that you use. How do you approach the upsell? Do you do a telesales? Do you do an appointment at their house? How do you approach that, the upsell or the
Yeah.
ad?
So particularly the first time I really reactivated my existing book of business, and I wish, I did it more frequently as I was, moving through my career in insurance. But the first time I did it, it was all through phone calls. And
Okay.
really just the way you reactivate a current client is by having a service orientated mindset. Like,
Okay.
hey, just wanted to touch base, want to check in, make sure everything's going well, want to make sure that your beneficiaries are still up to date. You still want, your daughter and your son 50-50. Okay, great. Also, I completely forgot, Betty, I forgot, when that time comes, you prefer to be buried or cremated. and then revisit the situation. Okay, you want to be buried?
Okay.
Great. Well, we only got 5,000. What I would recommend, I mean, or no, hey, how much does a burial cost nowadays? And kind of just revisit, do some more fact finding, and kind of just, you know, implement or drop some facts of like, man, you need to get more coverage. And you really just say, hey, like, okay, burial costs 10,000 nowadays. You know, Betty, as we know, costs are going to continually go up. I mean, what was a burial 10 years ago? Oh, 5,000. Now it's 10,000, right? So that means 10 years from now could be 15,000, could be 20,000. So what I would recommend, doesn't have to be now, but later on in the future, that we do look at the next option. And then, you know, I usually just bring up like, here's what the next option would look like. Okay, an additional 5,000, that would be 30 more bucks every month. And I kind of wait for them to, you know, talk a little bit or whatnot. But okay, would that fit your budget, or would you want something lower, or would you want something more? And then, you know, more, you know, good amount of chances that, you know, the more people you talk to, the more that you'll be able to get those second sales. So really just
Sweet.
with the service oriented mindset though, you're not just calling them to say, hey, like, you want to get more coverage? Like, no,
Yeah.
like, here, I want to make sure everything's going right. Have they been taking the money? I want to touch base with you. You know, how's your family? How's everything going in life? Are the beneficiaries still up to date? Do we need to change anything? You know, so on and so forth. Really just coming out with service first and foremost. And then really just evaluating the situation, seeing how much coverage they have, seeing if they want to be buried or cremated, you know, bringing up the fact of like, man, prices are just continually going up. Oh yeah, do you want to leave money behind to your son and daughter? Or are you just looking for enough to cover the burial, right? And just really revisit it. And you know, they've already done business with you, so it's more likely that they want to do business with you again. And I guarantee it that a lot of these clients, they're just waiting for someone to call them to buy more
Literally.
insurance. Yeah. And they're just waiting for that specific person. And, you know, you are that specific person, especially if they're your existing client. Man, I mean, like you said, the biggest weeks in your agency are when you work on your existing clients. And for anyone that's never done that, drop everything that you're doing
And do it.
and do it. Or maybe even just do it on Sundays. Sundays are perfect days to work your existing clients, or holidays. Exactly. You know, that's what I call, you know, existing client reactivation time. Is like Sundays and holidays. You can do it any other day, but
It's a good excuse to call them too, because like if you call a new lead on a holiday, they may be like, "What are you doing? You're pissing me off." But if you call someone that's your existing client to wish them a happy holiday, like that's the perfect time because you already got the in. So.
Yep.
Sweet, man. Okay, awesome. So now, real quick, because we got a few minutes left here. What I want you to do is just like run people through a basic sales presentation that you run on an appointment if it's a new lead, and then let us know your goals for 2023. Because I get so pumped whenever the quarters hit. We're in quarter 4, 2022 now. I know that your goals for 2022 quarter 4 are going to gear up towards launching you into 2023 with some massive success. So, what's your presentation look like? And then what do you got planned for the future before we wrap it up?
Yeah, so presentation, really just simple, very simple.
too.
Throughout the years, I removed anything that isn't needed, right? Making it as, you know, not making it as quick as possible, but making it as quick as possible. Not just for the purpose of making it quick, but for the purpose of being in tune with how important the buyer's time is, and how sensitive they are with time. You know, because people have things to do, and
that's a service mindset too. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, 100%. So for me personally, I didn't do much rapport building. I remember at the beginning of my career when I first moved to Charlotte, man, oh man, like I spent minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes of just trying to build rapport. Oh yeah, look at that painting on the wall. You know, look, what about your grandkids? Da, 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 da. Like everyone knows that, you know, that's old school tactics, and you're wasting your time, and most importantly, you're wasting the customer's time. So for me personally, I'm going right into it like, hey, appreciate, we're in the field, we're face to face. Appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. Betty, thank you for having me. Where do you want to sit? Where would be best for us to sit? Do you want my shoes off? Okay, great. Okay, good. Where's the best place for us to sit? And they're like, oh yeah, we could sit on the couch. Okay. Do you want me sitting there? Do you want me sitting here? Giving them control, allowing them to have control.
Love that.
I'm giving them the control. So I actually ask them, like, they tell me to sit, but I double check. I'm like, man, you want me to sit here? Do you want me to sit there? Okay, great, perfect.
That builds rapport without you even having to talk about their kids too.
Yeah,
Guys.
exactly.
Common
So
ground.
perfectly just going into it, and then immediately just going into the sales presentation. Like, okay, so hey, mate, the main reason many people fill out this postcard is because they want to make sure, God forbidding, when that time comes, they don't leave any financial burden behind to their loved ones. Now, what were your thoughts and concerns when you had filled this out? And then boom, I figure out what their thoughts and concerns was. And then from there, it allows me to see which direction I need to move into, like as far as fact-finding questions. So, hey, I filled it out because I'm looking for insurance and I don't have insurance. Oh, wow, okay, absolutely. So have you ever had insurance before? Wow, how long ago was that? Wow, what happens to the policy? Or maybe, hey, they already have insurance, so they're looking to add more. Okay, great. Figure out what their past purchases are, figure out what their past decisions were, and that will dictate how they make future decisions. So that's the importance of fact finding. But for me particularly, like, boom, I'm going straight into fact finding. I'm figuring out what their why is, what the reason as to them wanting more insurance, and I'm figuring out what their past decisions were like, because that will tell me how they're going to make future decisions. And after that, really just asking the health questions. And throughout that time, throughout the sales process, you're building rapport throughout the sales process as well. Not just making it all just like sales, right? Like throughout the process, I'm also, asking them like, man, how long you been here in Cleveland, or how long you been here in Miami, or, how long you been here in whatever state they're in. And, asking them, you got, okay, your daughters and kids, are they living here? You see them often, and that's throughout the sales process. I don't do that all at the beginning and waste their time or waste my time, most importantly. So, man, I'm getting that beneficiary's name very, very soon within that sales process as well. I mean, say, hey, God forbidding, you were to pass, a week from now or a month from now, who would you want that check going to? Who would be most responsible? Getting that beneficiary's name and using the beneficiary's name throughout the sales process as well. So
Guys,
really
the important thing real quick here, and then the important thing about having that rapport, because I do the exact same thing, and I found new agents really struggle with weaving those rapport questions into their presentation. How do you get good at that? You become obsessed with your presentation, and you get it down to literally someone could wake you up at 2 a.m. and you could just, boom, rip out your script or your presentation. Because if you're not like that, you will struggle to weave rapport into your presentation or your script. Because if you don't know the next step, you can't think of some creative way to build rapport. So that's so key there, to get to that point where you master your presentation to where you make it a conversation. You have to master the sales part of it first and know it forward and backward, and then you'll be able to weave in your rapport building. And clearly Ryan's mastered his.
Man, that's a great point right there, because a lot of people have a random approach every single time they speak with a new client. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, man, you have to do this. You have to have like a very similar approach every single time. You got to have steps that you're going through, because like you said, if you have a random approach, you're not going to be able to, man, just say it off the tip of your tongue. You're not going to be able to wake up at 2 a.m. and start your presentation and say it off the top of your mind. So, man, I think one of the biggest things that holds a lot of people back and from closing deals, is that they don't have a specific approach every single time. And for me personally, I did the same thing every single sales. Obviously, it's going to be a little different, but as far as the approach, as far as the steps that I'm going through and the direction in which I'm moving the sales process through, it's very similar every single time. So, man, I think that's a very, very big key right there. But man, I mean, it's just very, very simple. Keeping
So
it
fact
simple.
finding and then presentation, just kind of cover the product.
Yeah.
Ask them what they need the insurance for, health, I'm assuming, and then
Yep.
some
So
basic features.
fact finding, like you said, fact finding, asking them about their health, bringing up the banking situation, like, hey, my last question for you, Betty, is simply how these carriers work for payments nowadays. As I'm sure you know, I don't come back every month like back in the old days to collect the premium. All the companies nowadays, they work through automatic drafts, usually through like a bank locally. So my question to you is, do you bank locally? Really sweetening how you present yourself as well. Not just
Yeah.
saying, hey, all the companies work through banks. Do you bank locally? Like just not being as direct, right? Like, oh, no, I don't come back every month like the back in the old days. I'm sure you had your mother, your grandmother used to see the insurance man. All the companies, they work through automatic drafts, right? And then after that, boom, I'm like you said, presenting the product. For me specifically, I used to always differentiate myself from what they see on TV and what they see through the mail, which is going to be guaranteed acceptance, guaranteed issue, and then also term life. So I'm always differentiating myself and explaining the difference. Even if they know it before I'm even going into a whole term life and guaranteed issue, I'm asking, okay, now the last thing I want to do before I bring up some options and prices is explain to you what I do that's different than from what you see on the TV and through the mail. Now, Betty, do you
Cool.
know the difference between whole life insurance and term life insurance? They're going to be like, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know the difference. Like sometimes you're going to hear that. Oh, yeah, I know the difference. Oh, great. What's the difference? Just to see, kind of what they know. And then, awesome. Well, I just want to explain to you a little bit more. So whole life is X, Y, and Z. Term life is this. Always explaining to them because that shows that you're trying to service them. And for me particularly, like these people are going to continue to get things through the mail, and they're going to see things on the TV. And if they don't know the difference between all those different options, and we only share with them what we have to offer, what we think is the best, what we know is the best for them, which is whole life day one coverage, if they are approved for it, they're going to see things on TV and through the mail, and they're going to be like, oh man, like Ryan did me dirty, like screw him, and I'm just going to get this
Yeah.
insurance. Or they're going to make a rash decision on something they see on the TV or through the mail, and they're not even going to think about calling you. Whereas if you explain it to them, they're going to be like, oh well, I remember Ryan telling me about that. Like I don't want that. Like
Remove
this
the
is
bad data from their heads.
yeah, removing the bad data and getting them educated, right? For my sales process, it's a really educated based sales process, educating them, teaching them, making them more aware. And then after that, boom, I'm showing them options. Usually I go from highest number to lower number, like 20,000, 15, 10,000. Always, I used to start low and then move higher as I go down. But, something that I've learned is 20,000, 15, 10,000, or, start higher. So it doesn't, whatever. It just, the client sometimes seems like you're trying to upsell them. And then anytime they pick an option, this is huge. Would you consider? Always use this. Hey, they pick 15,000. Okay, great. I mean, would you consider anything lower? Do you want anything lower? Or maybe they pick the one on the bottom, which is the lowest option that you presented to them. Okay, do you want anything lower? And that shows them like, man, like he actually cares about me. He wants to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So would you consider anything lower? Or maybe they pick the highest option. You ask, hey, would you consider anything more? Maybe they pick the middle option. Would you consider 20,000 or anything more? So, and that's
Love
the
that.
biggest thing as well. Yeah.
Sweet, bro. Cool. So now, thank you for that, Ryan. What are your goals moving into quarter four 2022 and 2023 as we wrap this up here?
So one of the biggest goals that I have is by Q2 of 2023 is to make my first real estate investment into a commercial property, 16 plus units. Getting a handful of, investors that I know, trust, and we want to partner together, about 4 to 5 people to, put, 100 to 150,000 together and find a property, find a deal. That's one of the biggest things I'm moving towards, because a lot of things that I see a lot is that, yeah, we can create income, we can make money, but man, like, a lot of people can create it and make it, but man, how do you keep it and how do you multiply it, right? Like, as I've been learned by GC, but man, just that's one of my biggest goals. And then also opening up a LOA Medicare shop is also another one of my big goals as well. So looking to do that here in Miami, and looking to really just plug people into a platform that's going to have them exceeding at very high levels.
Perfect. All right. Love that, bro. Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for this, man. Really, really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions for Ryan, I'll drop his email right here. You're going to see it on the screen. And if you look up right here, you're going to see how Ashley built an agency to doing over $6 million in just 2 years. $6 million a month in just 2 years. She was able to build an agency doing that, selling final expense mortgage protection. So appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you so much, brother.